Welcome to the deep dive. Today we have a mission, and it's a really crucial one for anyone operating in a global context. We want to shortcut the learning curve for making a truly excellent first impression in English, but across some very, very different cultures.
And that's the key, isn't it? The different cultures part. This isn't just about, learning to say hello with a new accent.
Right.
We're talking about the hidden architecture behind it all.
Mhm.
The cultural rules that dictate how a simple English phrase is actually used and, more importantly, how it's judged.
So it's the difference between knowing the words and knowing how to behave.
Exactly. Knowing what to say versus mastering how to present yourself when you walk into a room, whether that room is in Manchester or, say, Fukuoka, Japan.
I really like that phrase, hidden architecture, because the expectations around something as simple as, personal space, they can be just completely different.
Oh, completely.
What feels warm and friendly in Seattle could come across as really aggressive or just weird in Singapore.
Precisely. The universal phrases, like, my name is, or nice to meet you, they're just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The real substance, the part that can sink you, is everything underneath. The nonverbal cues, the formality, the unspoken rules. That's what trips people up.
So for this deep dive, we've pulled together material comparing the USA, the UK, Malaysia, and Japan. Our path seems pretty clear. First, basic greetings and body language. Then, personal introductions, what to share, what not to share. And finally, we'll get into the really tricky part, culturally appropriate small talk.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's jump right in with the physical side of a greeting. Our sources all seem to agree that a basic English greeting almost always needs a physical component.
Right. It's not just words hanging in the air. In the English-speaking world, you need eye contact and usually some form of touch. The words themselves are easy. Hello, hi, good morning. But the context is everything.
So let's start with the US and the UK. What does that look like?
Well, in a formal or business setting, you're looking at what you could call high-contact cultures. Hi, or hello, is your verbal entry.
And then the handshake.
And then the handshake, it's the standard. But even there, you see these subtle differences.
Well, like what?
The American handshake, for example, is often taught to be firm, direct. It's meant to project confidence, maybe even a little dominance.
I've heard that, the firm handshake rule.
Exactly. Whereas the UK handshake, especially outside of, say, a very corporate London setting, can be a bit quicker, a little gentler even. It signals a kind of professional reserve, not a lack of confidence.
That is a fascinating distinction. The same action, but different signaling.
And then that entire model of physical contact and casualness, it just evaporates when we move east. The whole structure changes.
Okay, so let's talk about that divergence. If the US and UK models are physically engaging, what's the architecture like in Asia?
The key thing to understand is that the greeting in many parts of Asia is primarily a display of respect and hierarchy. That comes before immediate Western-style friendliness. Take Malaysia. The sources point out that while a standard handshake is common in business now, the traditional greeting, the salam, is still very prevalent.
And what does that involve?
It's a very light, soft touch of the hands. And then the person greeting brings their own right hand to their chest, near their heart.
Wow. That's a very different message than a firm handshake. It's about sincerity.
It's, I greet you from my heart. It's layered. And then you have Japan, where it's even more defined and there's even less physical touch.
So you have konnichiwa.
Yes, but konnichiwa is inseparable from the bow, the ujigi.
The bow is the physical part. It replaces the handshake.
It's the entire first impression. The sources get really specific here about how the depth and the duration of the bow signal the social hierarchy between two people.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah. A casual bow to a colleague you pass in the hall, that's a 15-degree ishaku, just a little nod. But if you're formally introduced to a client, you need a 30-degree kure bow, and you hold it.
And getting that wrong would be bad.
It could signal disrespect. Or, just as bad, it could imply you see yourself as an equal when you're not. It's complex.
So for a listener, if they're in a new high-stakes meeting and they just don't know what to do, is there a safe option, a default setting?
That is a great question.
Okay.
You need a safety valve.
Right.
The safest bet, especially in a formal Asian context, is to mirror what you're given. Watch the other person. Let them initiate. And if a handshake isn't offered, just a slight, respectful nod of the head is perfect.
So don't go in with a firm, confident handshake.
Never initiate a firm handshake or a hug if you're unsure. When in doubt, I'll always default to more formality and more physical distance.
That makes sense. It's easier to get more casual later than to undo a mistake.
Much easier.
Okay, so if the greeting is about hierarchy and respect, how does that affect the next step, the actual introduction? What do you say? Or maybe what don't you say?
That takes us right to crafting the introduction. The phrases are simple, right? My name is, I am from, nice to meet you. Everyone knows those. But the information that comes after those phrases, that's where culture completely takes over.
And this is where our source material highlights a really key tip. Knowing when it's okay to share personal details, it's a real duality.
It is. And it often comes down to collectivist versus individualist cultures.
Explain that a bit.
So in a highly individualist business culture like the UK, the intro is usually very brief, minimalist even.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. Name, title, company, nice to meet you. End of story. The focus is all on professional efficiency. Personal details about your family or hobbies.
Yeah.
That's earned later after trust is built.
Whereas in a more collectivist culture,
Like Malaysia, for instance, where community and family are so central. Sharing details about your family, your hometown, your education, that's not just normal. It's how you build rapport. It's expected.
so you're giving the other person context for who you are.
You're helping them place you in a social framework. You're not just a random employee. You're a person from Penang. You're someone with two brothers. You're connecting.
So that simple phrase, nice to meet you, in London, it could signal the end of the exchange.
Right. We're done here. Let's get to business.
But in Kuala Lumpur, it could be the starting gun for a whole series of friendly, personal questions.
That is the critical insight. A Malaysian introduction might sound like, hello, I'm Siti. I work in banking. I'm from Penang, and I have two brothers. She's offering that context up front.
And if a UK exec did that with a new supplier, it would feel
Awkward, overly personal,
Yeah.
distracting even.
And the reverse is also true then. If I'm a Westerner in a collectivist culture and I just give my name and title, I might seem cold.
You might seem aloof or like you don't trust them, like you only want a transaction. So the rule of thumb is, if the culture values relationships before business, be ready to share a little safe, non-controversial context. Hometown is always a good one.
This all leads directly into small talk, doesn't it? After the intro, you get those standard questions. How are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And you're saying these are just loaded with cultural landmines.
Oh, absolutely. The trap isn't the question itself. It's the expectation behind the question.
What do you mean?
In the U.S., small talk is casual, it's friendly. How are you is a real invitation for a quick chat. The answer is usually light, great, thanks, busy weekend.
But that same casual vibe in Japan would not go over well.
Not at all. You would hit a wall of cultural friction. In Japan, the interaction is about maintaining harmony, or wa.
Right. Wa.
Small talk has to be formal and indirect. You stick to neutral topics. The weather, your journey, things that everyone can agree on. Direct personal questions are a major no-no.
I remember one of the sources gave a great example of this, asking a Japanese colleague about their weekend plans.
It is a perfect example of a failure point.
Why is that so bad?
Because in the U.S., how was your weekend? It's just friendly filler. In a formal Japanese setting, it can be seen as prying. It might even imply you're questioning their work ethic, since their person time is considered sacrosanct. It's invasive.
So where does Malaysia fit on this spectrum? It's not as reserved as Japan, but...
No, it's very friendly, but it's community-focused.
Yeah.
Small talk is warm, but it revolves around safe topics that establish connection.
Like your hometown again.
Hometown, family nearby. It's about establishing a sense of shared belonging, not debating politics or sharing your deepest feelings. You're building safety, not vulnerability.
So as a global communicator, you have to constantly be running this calculation. What is the purpose of this small talk? Is it about efficiency, like in the UK? Is it about friendship, like in the US? Or is it about harmony, like in Japan?
That calculation is the absolute key. Getting the formality wrong or moving to personal topics too quickly. That's what can derail a first impression in seconds.
And it's not just the words. You keep bringing it back to nonverbal communication.
Because it's at least half the battle. Your tone, your posture, they are signal boosters for everything you're saying.
So can you give us some practical tips from the sources? How do you manage your tone and posture in these different settings?
Think of it as a cultural volume control. In a highly formal setting, like meeting a senior executive in Japan, your posture should be upright still. Your tone should be measured. Your speech clear and concise. You maintain physical distance.
You're signaling maximum respect.
Maximum respect. Your voice isn't loud or overly enthusiastic. Compare that to, say, a team lunch with new colleagues in the U.S.
A completely different world.
Totally. Your tone can be warmer, a bit louder, more conversational. You can have a relaxed, open posture. You might even lean in a little. You're signaling warmth and inviting connection. You have to consciously match these physical cues to the culture.
So what's the big takeaway here? This feels like a heavy lift for someone trying to get this right.
It is, but it's achievable if you break it down. True mastery isn't one skill. It's integrating three distinct layers.
Okay.
First, you need the correct phrases. That's the mechanical part.
Yeah.
Second, you need the right level of formality, knowing if you should be brief and professional or warm and personal.
And the third?
And third, the physical cues. The handshake, the bow, the posture, the tone. You have to get all three of those layers aligned. That's how you succeed.
That three-layer model makes it feel much more manageable. You're not just learning words, you're learning, I don't know, global social physics.
That's a great way to put it.
And for you, the listener, I really encourage you to practice this actively. Don't just read the phrases. Try to role play it. Grab a friend and practice the different levels of formality, the body language, the tone for each region.
And you know, this raises a really interesting final question, something for you to think about.
Oh.
Well, if a hi in the U.S. invites a handshake and a konnichiwa in Japan invites a bow, what happens when we strip all that away?
You mean like in an email?
Exactly. An email, a text, a Slack message. We're relying purely on words with no body language at all. How much of that crucial communication, that architectural context, are we losing? And how much does that challenge our ability to make a good first impression when we can't see the person at all?
A fascinating thought. How do you signal respect when you're just text on a screen? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.